Snow fell in heavy sheets over the blackened remains of Silver Pine Valley, a town swallowed by fire just 3 nights before. Smoke still rose from the ash, curling upward into the cold Montana sky. The silence was eerie, too still for a place that had once echoed with laughter and the hum of sawmills. Through the haze and ruin, Amelia Ward crawled. Her hands were bloodied from the ice, her breath a cloud of frost. The hem of her once-ivory dress clung to her legs, soaked through with mud and soot. The fire had taken everything: her home, her family, and the people who had once called her the favorite daughter of Silverpine, the one meant to marry into wealth and rebuild the town's fortune. But when the flames came, no one came for her. She had begged, screamed, pounded on the locked doors of her father's house as the walls burned around her. And in the end, she had been left to die. Her father and stepmother had saved themselves. The townspeople had fled. Only she remained. Now the cold bit at her skin like teeth. Each breath scraped her lungs. The world had narrowed to pain, snow, and silence. She collapsed beside what had once been the chapel, a skeleton of black beams and cracked stone. Her body trembled violently. Somewhere, far off, a wolf howled, low and mournful. She thought she might be dreaming. Then, through the haze of snow, she saw movement. A figure emerged from the forest's edge, tall and dark against the white. For a moment, she thought it was death itself, until he came closer and she saw the glow of his eyes. "Silver. Who's there?" she rasped. The man knelt beside her, the snow crunching under his boots. His voice was deep, calm, rough with something she couldn't name. "You're alive." "I shouldn't be," she whispered. He brushed a strand of wet hair from her cheek. His touch was warm, impossibly so, even in the freezing air. "What's your name?" "Amelia." His gaze sharpened. "Ward." She managed a faint nod before her vision blurred. "How do you know me?" He didn't answer. Instead, he slid his arms beneath her, one around her shoulders, the other beneath her knees, and lifted her as if she weighed nothing. Her head fell against his chest, the steady drum of his heartbeat grounding her in the dark. "Put me down," she murmured weakly. I'm fine." He almost smiled. "You're freezing, half dead and bleeding. You're not fine. Why are you helping me?" His breath hitched, just barely audible. "Because I was too late last time." The world tilted, fading. When she woke, it was to warmth, soft furs, the crackle of a fire, and the scent of pine resin and smoke. She blinked, disoriented, the dim light flickering against log walls. Cabin. Hidden deep in the woods. She sat up too quickly, and pain flared in her ribs. "Where?" A voice came from the doorway. "You're safe." He stepped inside, and the firelight caught his face. He was older than she'd thought, late 20s, maybe early 30s. Strong build, dark hair tousled from the wind, and those silver eyes that seemed to glow from within. He stared. "You." He set a kettle over the fire. "Yes, me. You brought me here. You'd have frozen to death otherwise." She hesitated. "Who are you?" He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "My name's Rowan Hale." Her breath caught. "The Alpha." A faint smirk tugged at his lips. "That's what they call me." Amelia's mind raced. Her father had spoken his name before, the werewolf lord who ruled the mountain territories beyond Silverpine, the man the townsfolk whispered about in fear and fascination. They said his bloodline carried the old curse, half man, half beast, protector and predator both. But he was also the one who'd kept the wild wolves from descending on their valley. "You shouldn't have saved me," she said quietly. "Why?" "Because if they know I lived, they'll come for me." Rowan's eyes darkened. "Who?" "My family," she whispered. "They wanted me gone." He was silent for a long time, the fire crackling between them. "Then they'll have to go through me." Amelia's throat tightened. "Why would you risk that?" He crouched in front of her, his gaze steady. "Because no one left you to die by accident." Her pulse quickened. "What are you saying?" He reached for a folded cloth and began wrapping her hands. His movements careful, precise. "I've seen what your father's capable of. He's made deals he doesn't want anyone to uncover." She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "You know him." Rowan nodded once. "We fought together once, before he betrayed me." Her heart twisted. "So you saved me to hurt him?" He shook his head. "No. I saved you because I couldn't save your mother." The words hit her like a physical blow. "You what?" Rowan's eyes flickered with pain. "I was there, Amelia. The night she died. She wasn't supposed to be in that carriage. Your father made sure she was." Amelia's breath left her in a sharp gasp. "That's not true." He met her gaze. "You know it is." Tears burned behind her eyes, but she swallowed them down. "Then why didn't you stop him?" "I tried." His jaw tightened. "But I wasn't strong enough." The fire snapped between them, throwing shadows across the walls. Finally, Amelia whispered, "What are you going to do now?" Rowan stood, his silhouette framed by the firelight. "I'm going to make sure he never hurts anyone again." "And me?" she asked. He looked back at her, a long, searching look that made her heart tremble. "You're staying here until it's safe. After that, it's your choice." Her lips parted. "My choice." His voice dropped low and certain. "To stay hidden or to stand beside me." She stared into the flames, her pulse racing. Somewhere deep inside her, a part of her that had been silent since the fire began to wake. Because for the first time since she'd been left to die, she wasn't afraid. For the first time she wanted to live, not because someone saved her, but because the man who carried her out of the flames looked at her like she still mattered. And though she didn't yet know it, that choice, to trust the wolf, would change everything. The days in the mountains passed like quiet ghosts. Snow muffled every sound except the steady rhythm of the wind and the soft creak of the cabin walls. Amelia spent most mornings by the fire, wrapped in thick wool blankets, while Rowan vanished into the forest, returning only when the sky began to darken. His coat dusted with frost, the scent of pine and blood following him inside. He never told her what he hunted. She didn't ask. Sometimes she would hear him outside at night, the low crunch of boots on snow, then the stillness, followed by a faint inhuman sound that raised the hair on her arms. The deep, raw growl of a wolf. He always came back human. But she had begun to wonder how much of that was true. One evening, as she mended one of his torn shirts by the fire, he spoke without looking up from sharpening his knife. "You're healing faster than I expected." Amelia smiled faintly. "You sound disappointed." He chuckled, a low, rough sound. "No, just surprised. Humans don't usually survive that kind of cold." She hesitated. "You say that like I'm not human." He looked up. Their eyes met. His silver, hers hazel and uncertain. "Maybe you're not," he said softly. Amelia's needle stilled. "What does that mean?" He turned back to the blade, the firelight flashing along its edge. "Your mother wasn't from Silverpine. She came from beyond the mountains, from lands even my kind avoid. There are stories about her bloodline." She frowned. "Stories?" Rowan's jaw tightened. "That her family carried the mark of the moon." Amelia laughed softly, though unease curled in her stomach. "That sounds like a fairy tale." He met her gaze again. "I wish it were." Before she could respond, a crash echoed outside. Sharp, metallic, too deliberate to be the wind. Rowan was on his feet in an instant, knife drawn, every muscle in his body taut. "Stay here," he said. "Rowan. Do not move, Amelia." His tone left no room for argument. He slipped outside, silent as smoke. Amelia waited. The fire popped once, then twice. The silence pressed against her ears until she thought she would go mad. Finally, unable to stand it, she grabbed a lantern and pushed the door open. The cold slapped her skin, stealing her breath. The forest stretched out before her, black and endless under the moonlight. Snow crunched beneath her bare feet as she stepped forward. "Rowan," she whispered. No answer. Only the wind and movement. A figure lunged from the trees, and before she could scream, a hand covered her mouth. "Shoo!" Rowan hissed, pulling her back behind the cabin. His breath was ragged, his eyes glowing faintly. "They found us." "Who?" she gasped. "The men your father sent." She froze. "No. That's impossible. They were tracking your scent." He turned toward the forest again, muscles coiled. "He doesn't want you alive, Amelia. He never did." Her chest tightened. "Then we have to run." Rowan shook his head. Too late. From the treeline came the sound of boots crunching in snow, several pairs moving fast. Then voices. "Check the cabin. If you see her, kill the wolf first." Amelia's heart stopped. Rowan pushed her back against the cabin wall, his breath hot against her ear. "Listen to me. There's a trapdoor beneath the hearth. Get inside it and don't make a sound. No matter what happens, you don't come out." She shook her head violently. "No, I'm not leaving you." He grabbed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "If they kill me, you run. You hear me? You keep running until the trees end." Tears burned her eyes. "Rowan, go," he growled. She slipped inside as he turned toward the approaching voices. The moment she lifted the trapdoor and crawled into the darkness below, she heard it, the first gunshot, followed by another, echoing through the trees. Amelia bit her fist to keep from crying out. The sound of fighting followed, brutal, fast, wet. She couldn't tell what was happening above her. She only knew the smell of blood reached her even there, thick and metallic. Then silence. It stretched so long that she thought the world had ended. When she finally pushed the trapdoor open, the room was half lit by the dying fire. The front door hung off its hinges. Snow and blood stained the floorboards. "Rowan!" Her voice broke the silence. A shape moved in the corner, slow, dragging. Then he stepped into the light. His shirt was torn open, his skin streaked with crimson. His eyes glowed brighter than she had ever seen, wild and feral. "Don't come closer," he warned, his voice not quite human. "Rowan, please." He staggered backward, shaking. "I can't hold it back." She froze. "Hold what back?" His body convulsed. The sound that came from his throat was part growl, part scream. His bones seemed to shift beneath his skin. Claws tore through his hands. And then she understood. This was no rumor. The man who had saved her was the beast itself. "Rowan," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "You don't have to fight it. I'm not afraid." He looked up at her through the change, his silver eyes bleeding into gold. "You should be." Then the transformation took him completely. The wolf that stood before her was massive, fur dark as shadow, teeth flashing white in the firelight. Yet even then, when he turned toward her, his gaze wasn't hunger, it was pain. Amelia took a trembling step forward. "You saved me once," she whispered. "Let me save you." For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, slowly, impossibly, the wolf lowered its head, a shuddering breath escaping its throat. Amelia reached out, her hand brushing the rough fur of his muzzle. "It's all right," she murmured. "You're not the monster they think you are." Outside, the wind howled. But in that small, broken cabin, man and beast knelt together in silence. A fragile peace formed from blood and trust. And though Amelia didn't yet know it, this night was only the beginning. Because the man who had saved her life was bound to her now. By fate, by fire, and by something older than either of them could name. By morning, the storm had stopped. The mountains were draped in soft white silence, the sky pale and merciless. Amelia woke to the faint sound of breathing, not her own. Rowan lay slumped against the wall, human again. His body covered in bruises and half-healed cuts that glowed faintly under the thin morning light. The transformation had torn through him like a fever. She knelt beside him, touching his forehead. His skin was hot, too hot. "Rowan," she whispered. He stirred, eyes fluttering open. They weren't silver now but pale gray, exhausted and hollow. You shouldn't be near me when I'm like that. You think I care. He smiled weakly. You should. She ignored the warning and pressed a damp cloth to his skin. You were bleeding last night. It's not the first time. Her hands trembled. You killed them, didn't you? The men who came. He looked at her for a long moment. They were sent to burn you alive again. I stopped them. Amelia swallowed hard. Then they'll send more. I know. She hesitated. Then we should leave. He shook his head. It won't matter where we go. Your father will find you. Then we fight. He gave a dry laugh. You don't even know what you're saying. She lifted her chin. Then teach me. Rowan looked at her. Really looked, and something in his expression shifted. You remind me of her, he said quietly. Of who? He hesitated. Your mother. Amelia froze. You said before you knew her. Tell me the truth this time. Rowan leaned back against the wall, eyes distant. She came to me 20 years ago before you were born. She was running from your father, from what he'd become. She carried something powerful inside her, something your father wanted to control. Amelia's voice was barely a whisper. What was it? Rowan's gaze found hers, sharp as moonlight. A curse. Or a gift, depending on who you ask. Her heart thudded painfully. You mean? You're not human, Amelia. Not fully. The words struck her like ice. He continued, voice steady but soft. Your mother carried the blood of the silver line, the first wolves. The ones the moon herself made before the world forgot her name. Your father found her because of it. He thought if he married her, he could control the bloodline. Amelia shook her head. That's impossible. Rowan smiled without warmth. You think I'm impossible too. She wanted to argue, but something deep inside her, something that had been stirring since the fire, pulsed an answer. A warmth spread through her chest, and for a moment she thought she saw it, a flicker beneath her skin, like molten silver running in her veins. She gasped. Rowan's expression darkened. It's waking. What is? The blood, he said. Your mother's gift. Her voice shook. What happens when it wakes? He looked away. That depends on you. Silence filled the cabin. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft, endless. Amelia pressed her palms to her temples. So all this time, the fire, my father's betrayal, it was because of what I am. He nodded. He feared you'd become stronger than him. He tried to burn the blood out of you. Her stomach turned. Then why save me now? Because, Rowan said quietly, if you die, everything ends. The silver line dies with you. The balance between our kind and yours will break. She looked up, tears trembling on her lashes. And if I live? He hesitated. Then the moon gets her air back. The words hung between them, terrible and beautiful. Amelia stood, pacing to the window. The forest stretched out below. Vast, white, infinite. You think I can become one of you? I think you already are. She turned back to him, anger and fear tangled in her chest. You should have told me sooner. I wasn't sure you'd survive the awakening. So you were waiting to see if I'd die. No, he said softly. I was waiting to see if you'd choose to live. Her breath caught. The room felt too small, too bright. After a long silence, she asked, how do I stop it? You can't, Rowan said. But you can control it. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small silver pendant, shaped like a crescent, etched with symbols she didn't recognize. Your mother gave this to me before she died. Said it belonged to her daughter. Amelia took it carefully. The metal was warm against her skin, as if it recognized her. What is it? The key, Rowan said. To your blood. To what you are. She stared down at it, the delicate chain trembling in her hands. Why did she give it to you? His voice was barely a whisper. Because she trusted me to keep you safe. And because she knew I loved her. The air left the room. Amelia looked up, her throat tight. You loved her. Rowan nodded slowly. But she loved someone else. She thought your father could protect her. I was too late to prove her wrong. Amelia's heart pounded. And now? He met her gaze, and for the first time the pain in his eyes softened into something else. Now I'll protect you instead. Whether you want me to or not. Before she could respond, the pendant in her hand pulsed. Once, twice, then burned against her skin. Amelia gasped, dropping it. The fire flared high in the hearth, and for a heartbeat, the cabin filled with blinding silver light. When it faded, Rowan was already on his feet, his expression grim. He's coming. Who? Your father. How do you know? Rowan's eyes glowed faintly. Because the blood just called to him. Amelia's pulse roared in her ears. Then we have to run. He shook his head. No. There's no running from what's in your blood. What are you saying? He stepped closer, his voice a quiet growl. I'm saying it's time you learned what you are. The storm outside rose again, howling like the wolves in the valley below. And as the first light of dawn broke through the clouds, Amelia Ward realized that her father wasn't the only one hunting her. Something older was watching too. Something that had waited years for her to rise. The storm came down the mountain like an army. By dusk, the sky had turned the color of ash, and the wind screamed through the pines, carrying the scent of blood and fire. Amelia stood at the cabin window, watching the darkness bleed across the snow. Her hands were shaking, though she didn't know if it was from fear or the strange heat pulsing beneath her skin, the same silver fire that had burned from the pendant when her blood awakened. Behind her, Rowan packed weapons into a leather satchel. Silver blades, a hunting rifle, a bundle of dried herbs that smelled faintly of smoke and iron. We can't stay here, he said. Once your father finds this place, he won't stop until the mountains ash. Amelia turned toward him. You said he's coming. How do you know? Rowan paused, his jaw tightening. Because I can feel him. You mean? He met her gaze. The blood bond. It runs through both of you. You're connected, even if you don't want to be. He shuddered. Then he can feel me too. Yes, Rowan said. But not if I take you higher, beyond the line where the wolves still answer to me. Her voice trembled. And what happens when the line ends? He hesitated, then said softly. Then it's just us. Something in his tone made her chest ache. You think we can survive this? He looked at her for a long moment before answering. I don't know. But I won't let him have you. The storm roared outside. Lightning flashed, reflecting in his silver eyes. They left the cabin just before nightfall. The snow was deep, swallowing their footprints as they climbed. The world was a blur of white and shadow, and the forest groaned with the weight of the wind. Halfway up the ridge, Rowan stopped suddenly, raising a hand. He's here. Amelia froze. I don't see anything. You won't, Rowan said. He's masking his scent. He's using her blood to do it. Her stomach twisted. My mother's blood. He nodded grimly. Your father learned more from her than I ever wanted him to. A voice cut through the storm then. Smooth, cold, and unmistakably human. Rowan Hale, it said. Still playing the savior, I see. Amelia turned toward the sound. A figure emerged from the trees. Tall, cloaked, eyes like shards of blue ice. Her father. Hello, daughter. His smile was thin and cruel. You look so much like her. Amelia's pulse thundered in her ears. Why did you do it? She whispered. Why did you leave me in the fire? He tilted his head, his expression almost curious. Because you were never meant to live. The blood was too strong in you. I couldn't control it. Rowan stepped forward, his voice a low growl. You murdered your wife to steal her power, and when that failed, you tried to kill your child. You don't get to speak of control. Amelia's father's gaze flicked toward him, full of disdain. And you, the half-breed alpha who couldn't save her mother. Tell me, Rowan, is this guilt or obsession? Rowan's jaw clenched. It's justice. The older man laughed, the sound cruel and sharp. You think you can protect her from what she is. You're a fool. That power will eat her alive. It already is. Amelia felt it then, the warmth in her chest twisting into something hotter, heavier. The snow around her began to melt, steam rising where her boots touched the ground. "Rowan," she gasped. He turned, alarm flashing across his face. "Breathe. Don't let him trigger it." Her father's smile widened. "It's too late." The pendant at her neck flared, silver light bleeding through her dress. The wind howled louder, branches cracking overhead. Amelia fell to her knees, clutching her chest. "It burns." Rowan dropped beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. You're not her. You can control it." Her father's voice cut through the chaos. "You think she'll listen to you? That thing inside her doesn't answer to love. It answers to blood." Lightning split the sky. And in that moment Amelia understood. The pain wasn't killing her, it was choosing. Her father reached out a hand, the air around him shimmering with unnatural energy. "Come to me, Amelia. Let me show you what you were born to be." Rowan stood, stepping between them. She was born to be free. Her father's eyes glowed pale blue. "Then she'll die like her mother." The world exploded. A wave of energy burst from Amelia's body, silver light tearing through the trees, scattering snow and ash. Rowan was thrown backward, slamming into the ground. Her father staggered, shielding his face from the brilliance. When the light faded, Amelia stood alone in the clearing, the storm gone utterly still. Her skin shimmered faintly, her eyes pure white. Rowan pushed himself up, wincing. "Amelia!" She looked at him, and for a terrifying moment, he didn't see the woman he'd carried from the flames. He saw something older, divine, and vast. Her father dropped to his knees, awe and fear mixing in his voice. "The moon blood." Amelia's voice echoed, layered, otherworldly. "You took everything from her. And still, she pitied you." Her father's hand trembled. "Amelia, please. You don't get to beg." The ground split beneath him. Silver light poured from the cracks, wrapping around his body. He screamed once, then vanished, his voice swallowed by the wind. When the light faded, Amelia collapsed. Rowan caught her before she hit the snow, his arms wrapping around her trembling body. Her eyes fluttered open, soft brown again, human. "What happened?" she whispered. "It's over," he said, voice breaking. "He's gone." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I didn't mean to. I know." He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "You did what you had to do." Her breath came in ragged gasps. "It hurts, Rowan." "I know, love. I know." She looked at him, fear flickering behind her exhaustion. "What if I can't control it next time?" He held her tighter. "Then I'll remind you who you are. Every time. For as long as I live." The snow began to fall again, soft and endless, covering the blood and light that had changed everything. And though she didn't yet know it, the real battle was still to come, not against her father, but against the power that had awakened within her. Because the moon wasn't done with Amelia Ward. Not yet. The snow had melted by spring. The mountain that once echoed with storms and screams now glowed with soft green life. The rivers ran clear again, and wildflowers bloomed where ashes had fallen. But the peace that touched Silver Pine Valley was fragile, like glass set over a still-burning fire. Amelia Ward stood at the ridge where her father had died. The wind played through her hair, carrying the scent of thawing pine and rain. Beneath her boots, the ground still shimmered faintly where her power had broken the earth. She had not spoken for 3 weeks after that night. The transformation, the burst of light, her father's vanishing, it had taken something from her. Something she couldn't yet name. Rowan found her there as he always did. He moved silently despite his size, his long coat brushing the grass. His silver eyes were softer now, less like ice and more like dawn. "You shouldn't come up here alone," he said quietly. Amelia smiled faintly. You say that every time. And you ignore me every time. Because you worry too much. He stopped beside her, the wind tugging at his dark hair. And you don't worry enough. She turned toward him. If I start worrying again, I'll never stop. Rowan studied her for a long moment, then said softly, "The pack's restless. They can feel the change." "You mean the power?" He nodded. "It's in the air. In you. The balance we kept for centuries. You shifted it." Amelia's gaze drifted toward the horizon, where the last snow still clung to the highest peaks. "Do they hate me for it?" "No," Rowan said. "They fear what they don't understand. Same as I did once." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "And now?" He hesitated, then reached out, brushing his thumb against her wrist. "Now I understand too much." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It hummed with something unspoken, fragile, alive. Finally, she asked, "Do you think it's over? The curse, the blood, the moon." Rowan looked out across the valley. "Things like that don't end. They change shape. Just like us." Amelia's expression softened. "You sound like you've made peace with it." He smiled faintly. "No. I've made peace with you." The words hit her like sunlight after rain. For a moment the world stilled, the wind, the birds, even the heartbeat that had thundered in her ears since that night. "Rowan," she whispered, "when you carried me out of the fire, why did you do it? Really?" His voice was low, almost a growl. "Because I couldn't lose her again." "Her? Your mother," he said softly. "But then when you opened your eyes, I realized it wasn't her I'd saved." Amelia's chest tightened. "Who then?" He looked at her, and the way he did made the air itself seem to bow around them. "You." Tears blurred her vision. "Rowan." He stepped closer, his hand sliding to the back of her neck. "You don't owe me anything. Not gratitude, not forgiveness. But if the moon ever calls you away again, if it asks for more than you can give, I want you to know this. You don't walk into that darkness alone." Her voice broke. "And if it calls you instead?" He smiled. "Then I'll answer." The wind rose between them, warm and wild. For a long time neither moved. Then slowly Amelia reached up, resting her palm against his chest. Beneath it, his heart beat steady, fierce and real. "Do you hear that?" she asked. He frowned. "What?" "The world," she said. "It's quiet again." He nodded. "That's because it's listening." They stood there until the sun dipped low behind the trees. The valley glowed gold, the shadows long and soft. Then Rowan turned toward her, his voice gentle. "You should come down. The pack wants to see you." She hesitated. "As what?" "As what you've always been," he said. "Their protector." She laughed softly. "I thought that was you." He took her hand. "It was. Until you." They walked down together, the alpha and the moon blood air, their steps slow and sure. As they descended, the forest came alive around them, wolves emerging from the trees, their eyes reflecting silver light. One by one, they lowered their heads to her. Rowan bowed too. Amelia froze. "What are you doing?" "Giving you what's yours," he said simply. She shook her head. "No. I don't want a crown." "It's not a crown," Rowan said. "It's trust. You earned it." The wolves howled then, not in mourning but in recognition. Their voices rose into the twilight, echoing off the cliffs, a sound that seemed to shake the stars awake. Amelia closed her eyes. The sound filled her chest, wrapping around the last remnants of her fear. For the first time since the fire, she didn't feel broken. She felt whole. When she opened her eyes, Rowan was still kneeling before her, but his expression wasn't submission. It was devotion. "Stand," she said softly. He rose, towering above her, yet somehow she felt taller than him. She reached up, tracing the faint scar at his temple, a reminder of all he'd endured to bring her here. "You once told me you'd remind me who I was," she whispered. "And did I?" She smiled. "You did. But now I know who you are too. Who? He asked. Her answer was a whisper lost in the wind. Mine. The wolf's howls softened into silence. The moon climbed above the mountains, casting silver light across the valley. And as Rowan pulled her into his arms, not as savior or alpha, but as something far more human, the curse that had haunted both their bloodlines finally dissolved. The moon watched. The wind breathed. The mountains slept. And for the first time in centuries, the silver line knew peace.